of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any comments from the public on non-agenda items? Seeing none, moving on to item 3, corrections to the agenda. Seeing none, moving on to item 4, AD-1 waterline replacement project.
Hello, I'm Laura Hendrickson, Associate Engineer here. Thank you so much for being here. I know it was a last-minute special board meeting, so we really appreciate your time today. So we came to you guys on March 6th of this year to authorize staff to advertise for construction bids for the AD-1 waterline project. During the bidding process, the scope of work was actually increased a bit to eliminate some dead ends and improve water quality also on Sandy Way. So we did add about 1,000 linear feet to the project to get rid of dead ends going to businesses there. So the scope did increase a little bit. The engineer's estimate, including the increased scope, was $3,928,975, and then in addition to that, we also included $100,000 lump sums for both as needed work on the water and sewer systems. This project is funded by an SRF loan. It currently has $2.3 million in it, but staff is working on amending that budget agreement with the SRF, the State Revolving Fund, for the increased cost of the bid. So the bid opening occurred at 2 p.m. on Thursday, May 8th. We got 4 bids ranging from $3,918,930 to $4,652,860. Our contract specialist was able to review the 2 apparent lowest bids for irregularities. When we're looking for irregularities, there's an important distinction between immaterial and material irregularities. So immaterial irregularities may be waived by you guys, the governing board, under your discretion, but material irregularities generally give the bidder an unfair competitive advantage or contain errors that would permit the bidder to withdraw their bid. These material irregularities cannot be waived. The apparent low bid that we received from White Rock Construction did include a material irregularity in their subcontractors list. They listed 2 subcontractors for the same description of work. This caused the form to be ambiguous and may have violated the Public Contracting Code, Section 4106, regarding the subcontractor listing requirements. And then we did receive a bid protest from Vincent Garrett Construction, who was the second apparent lowest bidder, pointing out that irregularity to us as well. We had already been in talks with White Rock about the irregularity. So we did consider the bid protest, and we have decided that we will recommend for White Rock's bid to be rejected because of that subcontractor double listing. Do you guys have any questions about that portion?
Yeah, just really quick. So, because in the staff report it reads like the protest kind of got us to look at, I guess in the future I'd like for us to reject the bid based on our interpretation of it before even considering the protest, because it's a little confusing, because it says it's moot, but it wasn't moot. It actually informed it, at least it reads in the staff report, that it informed rejecting the bid. So I just want to make sure there's like an order of operations here that we're following.
And Nick, there is. We
yeah.
consulted,
All right.
So we had consulted with Mary Beth before we received the protest.
Yeah.
Because we had seen the double listing and we wanted to get some clarification on that. And then when the bid protest came in, we consulted further with her. And clarifying all that. Yeah, their bid protest also included 2 other reasons, and those are the ones that we're just rejecting fully as well.
Okay. So in terms of process, when these bids come in, so somehow they're available to the other people that bid on the project, and they're able to review that, or procedurally, how does that work?
Yeah, they are able to come in and review it at the district. They can also file a public records request, but those typically take 10 days, whereas our protest period is only for 7. But before we review those for any personal identifiable information, any insider knowledge that should be redacted, we do let them view any part of the bid that they request on site. So Vince Aguirre did request to review 3 forms that White Rock had submitted. They never requested to see the entire bid in its entirety here, and we did provide those 3 forms while they were here, and they even asked for 1 more while they were sitting in the room, and we did run upstairs and print that out for them so they could view it.
Hey, Laura, it's Mary Beth, real quick.
Yeah.
And I believe that the district actually posts the subcontractor listing for each bid on Planet Bids. Is that correct? I think Star's in the room.
That is correct. Yes, so STAR provides a bid summary and the subcontractors list of all of the bids the same day of the bid opening on Planet Bids, which is accessible to the public. Within 24 hours.
Thank you.
To follow up on your Professor Haven, we noticed the development scene. We asked for follow-up information from White Rock Construction. We, at that time, felt like it was sufficient to justify a word to White Rock, and that's why that initial recommendations were made prior to the bid process being received. With the concerns of the bid process and looking into it further, acknowledging that we were seeking information that wasn't necessarily included within the bid, that raised other legal concerns, and that's why there was this shift. We did have a conversation with White Rock. They acknowledged they made a mistake in their bid, and they also acknowledged, while they don't like this decision, they do recognize this in the best interest of our ratepayers. And I think that kind of shows how long they've worked with us. So while they really don't like it, this is a $4 million contract, which is substantial. They acknowledge there was a mistake. And this is in the best interest for the rest of the
just had a couple questions kind of on that line. I think, as I look at the bidding process, to me it always seems like a lot. And so, there's legally substantive items and then, kind of cost substantive items. And then in terms of our interpretations, whether it's significant or not, are we relying on legal kind of thresholds, kind of an internal gut feeling, what we've seen in past precedent? You know what I mean? Like as I saw this, just at a high level, like as we reviewed it, I didn't think it was terribly substantive, but just curious kind of the thought process in terms of how you make your decision, what guides you, both in terms of this, but just in future ones in case there was ever legal action or anything like that.
This one was driven by legal counsel.
Okay.
Yeah, so Nick, we've gone through some trainings with our legal counsel, AD-HOC, on the public contracting code. And so I think we all have a familiarity of like what could be considered giving us a contractor some advantage. Looking through a microphone. And so we did notice, like Trevor said, that there was maybe a red flag, and so we consulted out with them to kind of move us forward. Andrea and I have had some conversations. Finance is going to be taking over the front end, the contracting language in our front end documents, our specs, which is where some of this takes place. And we've talked engaging Mary Beth and AD-HOC to kind of clean up a lot of the language. This was a learning lesson. Being very specific in what we're asking for from the contractors, what is required by law, what is, maybe something the district is asking for that's beyond really what we need. And so we are, in the next few months, going to be working with AD-HOC to clean all of that up.
No, I appreciate that. Just as, we've experienced these in the past, and it was always kind of a question I had in terms of kind of how that decision, yes or no, kind of on both sides of that. Just kind of speaking plainly, I would say, if it is deemed to be this, based on what you guys are saying, legal kind of input, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but if it is kind of a submittal kind of bureaucratic kind of issue, less so than the substantive issue, I wouldn't allow that to increase costs on our ratepayers. This is a stand.
The issue we have here, so typically when we're looking at it, is that in our specifications in our contract by statute, or the determination of the district, this is an item that's by statute. It goes back to the Subletting Subcontracting Fair Practices Act. And so there's very specific language. You can't list two subcontractors. The concern is the prime will go bid shopping. So they'll say, hey, this guy will do it for $300. Can you do $275? I've got $275. Can you do $250? And over
overall that's detrimental to the work product, and it's bad for the contracting business, it's bad for the district. So that this is a statutory issue.
Yeah, the advice that we got from Mary Beth was basically once the form is ambiguous and we feel the need to reach out further for clarification, that's kind of when it becomes a non-responsive bid. Yeah. Because if a judge is looking at this, they're looking at the bid in its entirety and that's it. They can't get the follow-up information that we're allowed to have. So even though we felt logically like we could defend White Rock, once we received the protest and we knew that Sierra, could take this further, then the logical part of it of having this backup doesn't really hold up as well in court.
And I think we also were looking at the amount of time that it would take to weave its way through the court, and the fact that, what was submitted with White Rock's bid, we could not tell if they were going to, and I couldn't hear Trevor very well when he was describing the potential for bid shopping, but that is the intent of the statute that restricts listing more than one subcontractor for any given trade. They clearly listed two, as Laura said, for the same scope of work, which happened to be the pipeline installation, which was a pipeline job. When we got with them, we understood the distinction that was not clear on their bid. So they could have done, I think I heard Trevor giving you two different dollar amounts. They could have been shopping between the two listed subs, and that flies right in the face of California law. They cannot bid shop after they come in low bidder, or after they bid.
Sorry, Mike, we just do it different on the private side. You're trying to bring down costs, not bring it up. Right. If we ever want to talk about affordable housing in this community, we got to bring it down to the price per square foot. But we're going to leave that to a different discussion.
Yeah. So another concern that Mary Beth did just bring up was the timing of this. Obviously, we called you here for the special board meeting because we didn't even want to wait the full 3 weeks until the next board meeting. We did have to rush this project because it was taking place of the Pioneer Trail water line that we're planning on doing next year now. So this is already on a tight time frame. Some contractors had expressed their concern even before the bid opened about the tight timeline. And, if we had to go into some other court battle or needed to fight this for longer, then that would get rid of the rest of the construction season, basically. And next year, we're worried that these bids, if we had to do this whole process again, that they would be even higher. So.
And I don't know if you included the bid protest or not, but it was written by a construction lawyer who I have been up against many times. She's an excellent lawyer. But knowing that they brought her in at this level, I thought that probably indicated a stronger likelihood that they would pursue this. And given the difference in the bids, just your legal fees could have, depending on how far this went. And I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure we would have won, but I don't know for sure that, how a judge is going to come out on something as ambiguous as this. And this just, with looking at the totality of the circumstances, this seemed to be a very clear decision for you all.
Yeah. I mean, I was in no way questioning the decision, just to be clear. I was more about process and how we would have almost arrived at this rejection on our own, it sounds like, but we're implying that the protest had something to do with our decision. I just wanted to make that really clear. Mm-hmm. That's all.
Just a question surrounding the SRF funding, in that you indicated in your staff summary that basically the current loan amount is 2.3. Staff is coordinating with SRF staff to amend the final budget to reflect the total bid and cost city reimbursement. Can you expand on that? Does that mean we have the ability to work with SRF to increase the size of that loan? Yeah,
so this project is bundled in an SRF loan with the Herbert walk-up pipeline replacement that occurred last summer. Okay. So the original amount was for both of those projects, projected amount, and the Herbert walk-up ended up taking a large portion of that. But during the process for the SRF loan, Danielle is working with them to increase the amount of that loan, and that process couldn't really start until we picked our bidder, because then we have the full totals. So she is working with them now that we've decided the exact amount, and the contractor that we're going with, she'll be working with them to amend the final budget amendment. Actually, just sent over the paperwork to Kim this morning.
So timing-wise, that's not going to impact us. They respond pretty quickly to those types of requests or adjustments.
I'm not sure how quickly they respond, but but it shouldn't affect our timeline. We don't need to wait for that to begin. That's just a process that kind of goes on in the background.
Okay. So it's something that can play out of construction that goes on, and
Yeah.
they say, actually, you're only going to get 2.3.
Yeah.
We'll figure out the rest and give it to you.
The most important part is waiting until we get the contract in hand, which we have.
Okay.
And then it's a whole different process.
Okay. I just want to make sure that's there's fluidity there, and they're able to negotiate with us on that. That's great.
Yeah. So as far as dates moving forward, we're hoping to award the bid today on May 21st. The notice to proceed usually comes about 3 weeks later, so that would be on June 11th. We already have a tentative pre-construction meeting set with Vinciguerra Construction and a tentative public meeting also set. This project will affect a lot of businesses in the area, so we're hoping to do a good amount of outreach before the full construction begins. And then Vinciguerra has agreed to complete the work this dig season, so by October 15th of this year. The last thing I wanted to talk about, you guys probably noticed that item number 5 on our requested board action is regarding the paving agreements with the city of South Lake Tahoe. This is the exact same agreement that Brent has come to you a few times. I know that number seems really high. It is a large estimate. The streets in this area are a bit windy, so we're estimating a lot of paving in the area. We will come back and do a final count of what we actually need. And that amount does include a 25% contingency. So if we end up needing to pave somewhere else, then that will include that as well. So just wanted to clarify that that's the paving agreement that we have. Yes. So that's packaged here now. We won't have to come back to you in a year now.
Just to be clear, and I'm thinking back to the gentleman's comments about paying into the pot for the city and them not doing anything forever. Is there a plan for them to repave those neighborhoods?
Not to repave these neighborhoods in particular, but they will put it into their paving fund. And we do have a lot of language in there about price per square foot not increasing, that they can't come back and ask for more or anything like that.
Sorry, just another process question. In the event this was litigated, for the project, given our tight construction season and so forth, like is it a stay? Like how does that play out? I don't think that's something on the board have interacted with something like that. You know, like can we continue?
So
yeah.
So they would have to see. So they would file a writ of mandamus, and they would simultaneously file a TRO, a request for a temporary restraining order, to restrict us from awarding the project. Judges are usually pretty good with denying TROs to allow us to go ahead and get critical infrastructure constructed, especially if we could show the urgency of this in your short dig season. But there is always a risk that they say, just hang on, we're going to hear this writ in the next 6 weeks, depending on which judge you're in front of. So there is that risk, but that would be the mechanism, would be a temporary restraining order to prevent award of the contract. Does that answer your question?
No, it does.
Just for clarification, the bids were about $55,000 different. So in the scope of a $4 million project, they were quite close to each other.
And then, did I hear somebody comment that White Rock actually acknowledged? Okay, so was that like a formal acknowledgement, or how was that represented?
It was a phone call.
A phone call. Okay. Nothing written. Okay.
I mean, I do think they,
Nothing written, but they're still working with us on other projects currently. So
starting with an attorney, I don't think is a good sign. Just to, I think that's a fair comment. Could be bluff. We don't know. I guess really what I'm weighing is, in terms of $55,000, we've all looked at the financial realities and legal fees. To your point, that's nothing. but I don't want to do anything that disrupts timeline. This is a critical project for many different reasons. Also supporting fire, and so, yeah, I mean, I want to move forward without delay and just, if we feel legally sound, I guess that's the process.
Any other comments from the board? Any comments from the public? What would you like us to do?
It's a long one. Bear with me. Brent beat me. He said he had a 6-part one. So our requested board action is to, number 1, find the bid received from White Rock Construction Incorporated to be non-responsive and reject the bid. Number 2, find the bid protest from Vinciguerra Construction Incorporated to be moot and reject the protest. Number 3, waive minor irregularities identified in the bid from Vinciguerra Construction Incorporated. Number 4, award the contract for the Bijou 1 waterline replacement project to Vinciguerra Construction Incorporated in the amount of $3,974,140. And number 5, authorize the general manager to enter into a reimbursement agreement with the City of South Lake Tahoe to provide road repairs related to the Bijou 1 waterline replacement project in an amount not to exceed $662,500.
Can we just get a little bit more discussion? So just in terms of our experience with Vinciguerra and neighborhoods close by, do we have a pretty on top of it project manager working with this one, just to make sure we're working with our neighbors? And I know that we've had some.
Myself and Trevor. So.
Okay. Just based on your experience, Nick, in your neighborhood and some of the things that were going on there, it's just that's something we've got to be mindful of.
And we have Garth as our engineering inspector, who's also very, very on top of them.
Great. We have a motion. Gotta make it worth our time here. Right?
Thank you guys very much.
Good job.
I really appreciate it.
Okay. Moving to adjournment. Nothing else on the agenda. Meeting adjourned.
Boom. 2 minutes.
Yeah, we cut the topic.